Hey folks, welcome back to Stoic Relationships. Let me ask you this. Have you ever wondered what truly happens when you step away from someone's life? Not with drama, not with ultimatums, but with quiet, deliberate absence? There's a certain power in simply disappearing, a power that can evoke emotions they may not even realize are lurking beneath the surface. Think about it. In relationships, whether romantic, platonic, or even professional, we often fall into the trap of chasing, explaining, or fighting to be understood. But what if, instead of trying so hard, you just chose to vanish, leaving behind a silence so profound it forces them to face their own thoughts? The truth is, when you remove yourself from someone's world, you don't just leave an empty space. You leave an impact, a ripple of emotions they can't ignore. The fascinating thing about this approach is that it taps into something deeply rooted in human psychology. When you're always present, people tend to take you for granted. They grow accustomed to your kindness, your energy, your presence. But the moment you step back, the dynamics shift. Suddenly, they're left with questions, uncertainties, and an unsettling awareness of what they've lost. And trust me, they feel it. This video isn't about playing games or being manipulative. It's about understanding the human mind and how your absence can be more powerful than your presence. It's about reclaiming your worth and recognizing that sometimes walking away quietly speaks louder than any words you could ever say. Today, we'll delve into 7 profound emotions they experience when you disappear, based on timeless Stoic principles and modern psychological insights. These aren't just fleeting feelings, they're transformative realizations that can shift the entire dynamic of your relationship. As we explore these feelings, you'll see how silence can be your strongest ally. Whether you've been hurt, overlooked, or simply need to remind someone of your value, these insights will help you understand the power of stepping back. And while these principles can be applied in various aspects of life, we'll focus on how they resonate in romantic relationships, where emotions often run the deepest. But before we dive in, let me ask you this. Have you ever walked away from someone and wondered what they truly felt in your absence? If you've been there, or even if you're considering it now, this video is for you. Stick around, because what you'll learn here could change the way you approach not just relationships, but how you view yourself in them. So grab your focus and let's get started. Number 1, the sting of rejection. Have you ever considered the profound impact of simply walking away? Not with heated arguments or dramatic exits, but with calm, intentional silence. This act, seemingly quiet on the surface, delivers a resounding message, the sting of rejection. It's sharp, undeniable, and powerful enough to stir emotions that many people try to avoid acknowledging. But why does rejection hit so deeply? At its core, rejection confronts the ego. When someone grows accustomed to your attention, your affection, or even just your consistent presence, they begin to rely on it. This reliance often happens subconsciously. They don't realize how integral you've become to their daily existence until you're no longer there. And when you remove yourself, that absence becomes a glaring void they can't ignore. This is when the sting of rejection settles in, often catching them off guard. In relationships, especially romantic ones, this dynamic is even more pronounced. Think about how easily people can take constant care and attention for granted. If you're always the one reaching out, making plans, or accommodating their needs, they may unconsciously assume you'll always be there. Then, the moment you stop, the moment you prioritize yourself over their expectations, they feel the jarring impact of your absence. That's when they're forced to reevaluate not only how they've treated you, but also their own actions and assumptions. Here's a relatable example. Imagine someone who constantly gives in a relationship, whether it's time, energy, or emotional support, only to receive very little in return. Over time, they start to feel drained and unappreciated, so they make the decision to step back. The other person, who had grown comfortable with this dynamic, suddenly feels a sharp void. Why? Because the giver's decision to disappear communicates a powerful truth. They will no longer settle for being undervalued. This sting of rejection isn't solely about losing a person. It's also about facing the implications of that loss. When you step away, you're sending a clear message, whether intentionally or not, that the relationship didn't meet your standards, or that their actions or inactions didn't align with what you needed or deserved. This realization can be uncomfortable, even painful, for the other person. But discomfort often sparks growth, forcing them to reflect on how they've shown up or failed to show up for you. Now, let's tie in some timeless Stoic principles. The Stoics teach us to focus on what we can control and release what we can't. In this scenario, walking away is about reclaiming your energy and self-respect, not about controlling how someone else reacts. Their sting of rejection is theirs to process, not yours to manage. Your decision to step away is a demonstration of self-worth, not an attempt to manipulate. Here's the transformative aspect. Rejection often becomes a wake-up call. It's the moment someone truly evaluates their behavior and the role they played in your departure. This sting can prompt them to grow, evolve, and rethink how they approach relationships. But whether they learn from it or not, the choice to walk away is always about your growth, not theirs. As you reflect on this, what's your take on the power of walking away? Drop a comment below with the words, "I choose respect," to affirm your journey towards self-worth. And if you're finding value in this conversation, make sure to hit the subscribe button and turn on the notification bell so you don't miss out on our next deep dive into Stoic relationships. Stay tuned. Up next, we'll explore how missing someone creates a void that changes everything. You won't want to miss it. Number 2, the void of missing you. Let's talk about something we've all experienced at some point. That aching void that creeps in when someone important suddenly disappears from your life. It's not just about their absence, it's about what that absence reveals. When you step away, intentionally or unintentionally, you create a gap in someone's life. And the truth is, that gap can be profound. What's fascinating about this void is how it forces people to confront their feelings. When someone grows used to your presence, your kindness, your support, your energy, they often don't realize how much they rely on it until it's no longer there. It's not until you're gone that they start to miss the moments they once took for granted. This is the power of the void, and it has a way of making people think deeply about what they've lost. Now, this doesn't just apply to romantic relationships. It's true in friendships, family dynamics, and even professional connections. When you've consistently shown up for someone, they might start to assume your presence is a given. But when you take a step back, something remarkable happens. They notice the void. It's not just about missing your company, it's about recognizing the value you brought into their life. This void works on multiple levels. On the surface, they might miss your smile, your humor, or the way you always seem to have their back. But deeper down, they begin to feel the loss of emotional security you provided. Think about it. When you're someone's confidant, cheerleader, or safe space, your absence isn't just noticed, it's felt on a profound level. That void isn't just about you being gone, it's about the realization of how much you mattered. In romantic relationships, this dynamic can be even more intense. When someone loses access to your energy, the way you cared for them, listened to them, or supported their dreams, it can hit them harder than they ever anticipated. They might try to distract themselves, convincing themselves that they're fine without you. But over time, that void grows louder, more noticeable. It's in the quiet moments, the mundane daily routines, that they start to realize what they had. This is where the Stoic philosophy comes into play. The Stoics teach us to let go of what we cannot control and to focus on our inner strength. When you remove yourself from someone's life, it's not about creating pain for them. It's about reclaiming your energy. The void they feel isn't your responsibility. It's their opportunity for reflection. This isn't about revenge or manipulation. It's about showing them, without words, what happens when they no longer have access to your unique value. Here's a story to illustrate this. I once knew someone who was always there for their partner, always available, always supportive, always putting the other person's needs first. But over time, that partner began to take them for granted. They stopped appreciating the little things and started assuming the support would always be there. So one day, this person made a decision. They didn't argue or make a dramatic exit. They simply stepped back and stopped overextending themselves. And the result? The partner, who had been so dismissive, quickly began to notice the void. They missed the warmth, the care, and the energy that had been so freely given. That void became a mirror, forcing them to see how much they had overlooked. The lesson here is clear. The void of missing you is a powerful teacher. It reminds others of your value in a way words never could. And the most important part? It's not about proving anything to them. It's about prioritizing yourself and giving others the space to realize what they've lost. So, how do you handle this dynamic? The key is to step back with grace, not bitterness. You're not pulling away to punish anyone. You're doing it to honor your own worth. And if they truly value you, they'll feel that void, and they'll take steps to address it. If they don't, then you've gained clarity about the relationship, and that's a gift in itself. What's your take on this? Have you ever stepped back and noticed how people responded to your absence? Share your thoughts in the comments below with the phrase, "I choose my peace," to affirm your self-worth. And if this resonates with you, don't forget to hit subscribe and turn on notifications so you don't miss the next part of this series. Stay tuned. Coming up, we're diving into how curiosity can spark unexpected changes in relationships. You won't want to miss it. Number 3. Overwhelming curiosity. Let's dive into the fascinating power of curiosity, particularly when it becomes all-consuming. Imagine this. You've decided to step back from someone's life. Maybe you stopped texting as much, removed yourself from their social media orbit, or just faded into the background. At first, they might shrug it off, thinking you'll come back eventually. But then, something unexpected happens. They begin to wonder, what's going on? That small spark of curiosity starts innocently enough, but as time passes, it can grow into a burning question they can't ignore. The most intriguing part? This curiosity isn't just about what you're doing. It's about why you've pulled away. What shifted? Why are you no longer available to them in the same way? These unanswered questions can create an internal dialogue that's almost impossible to quiet. The magic of this curiosity lies in its subtlety. When you disappear or pull back, you create a blank canvas. And here's the thing about human nature. We're wired to fill in the blanks. In this case, their mind starts painting a picture, often one that highlights your mystery and value. Curiosity is a powerful emotional trigger. It drives them to think about you more often, to wonder about your life, and to consider what they might have done to lose your presence. In romantic relationships, this dynamic can be particularly potent. Think about it. If someone has grown accustomed to you always being available, your sudden absence can feel like a puzzle they're desperate to solve. They might find themselves replaying old conversations, looking for clues, or even checking up on you in subtle ways. This isn't just about missing you. It's about trying to understand you, which, in turn, makes you even more captivating in their eyes. Curiosity also has a way of amplifying your worth. When someone wonders about you, they're investing mental and emotional energy in you. Even if they don't act on it immediately, that curiosity is planting seeds of attraction, interest, and even admiration. They begin to see you as someone with depth, someone who isn't easily accessible or predictable. And let's be honest, mystery is one of the most attractive traits you can embody. Now, let's tie this back to Stoic principles. The Stoics teach us to focus on what we can control and let go of what we can't. By stepping back and creating space, you're doing exactly that. You're not trying to manipulate anyone into being curious about you. You're simply living your life on your terms. Their curiosity is a natural byproduct of your self-respect and boundaries. Let me share a quick story. A friend of mine, Sarah, was in a relationship where she always initiated conversations, planned dates, and made herself available at a moment's notice. Over time, her partner began to take her for granted, assuming she'd always be there. One day, Sarah decided to stop overextending herself. She didn't make a big announcement or play games. She just started focusing on her own life. She spent more time with friends, pursued new hobbies, and stopped being the one to initiate contact. At first, her partner didn't seem to notice, but within weeks, he was reaching out more frequently, asking about her day, and even showing up unannounced. When Sarah asked why the sudden change, he admitted that he'd been wondering why she seemed so busy, why she wasn't as available as before. That curiosity sparked a deeper appreciation for her, and their relationship became more balanced as a result. The takeaway here is simple. Curiosity is a powerful force, but it's not something you can force. It happens naturally when you create space and focus on yourself. You're not doing it to play hard to get. You're doing it because your energy deserves to be spent on people and activities that uplift you. So, how do you use this concept in your own life? The key is to create moments of absence without bitterness or drama. Step back, focus on your passions, and let them wander. And remember, this isn't about withholding yourself as a punishment. It's about honoring your value. What about you? Have you ever noticed someone's curiosity grow when you've taken a step back? Drop the phrase, "let them wonder," in the comments if you've seen this dynamic at play in your life. And don't forget to hit subscribe and turn on notifications to stay connected for more insights into Stoic relationships. Coming up, we're diving into the next powerful sign they feel when you disappear. You won't want to miss it. Number 4, the urge to pursue you. Let's talk about one of the most fascinating psychological shifts that happens when you step back, the irresistible urge to pursue. It's a phenomenon deeply rooted in human nature, and once you understand it, you'll see how powerful your absence can be. When someone feels you slipping away, it creates a vacuum, an emotional gap they feel compelled to fill. It's not just about missing you, it's about the realization that they may have taken you for granted or underestimated your value. This is where the magic happens. The moment they sense they've lost something meaningful, their natural response is to chase after it. Psychologically, this urge to pursue stems from a principle known as the scarcity effect. The less available something becomes, the more we value it. Think about it. When a limited edition product is about to sell out, don't we feel a stronger desire to have it? The same applies to relationships. Your newfound distance makes you seem rare, and therefore more desirable. This urge to pursue is especially potent in romantic relationships. If you've always been the one initiating contact, Planning outings or showing unwavering availability, your sudden withdrawal shifts the dynamic. Instead of you chasing after them, they're now left wondering why they're not hearing from you. The tables have turned, and they're the ones feeling the need to close the distance. Here's an important nuance, though. The urge to pursue isn't just about physical absence. It's also about emotional detachment. It's the energy you exude when you're no longer emotionally tied to their every move. You're calm, collected, and focused on your own growth. That sense of independence and self-assuredness is magnetic. Now, let's ground this concept in Stoic principles. Stoicism teaches us to value what's within our control and release what isn't. When you step back, you're doing just that. You're focusing on your own well-being, your passions, and your goals. This shift in focus naturally creates an aura of mystery and confidence that draws people in. It's not about manipulating them, it's about living authentically. Let me share a story that illustrates this perfectly. A friend of mine, Alex, was in a situation where his partner seemed to lose interest over time. Alex was always available, always accommodating, and frankly, overly eager to please. One day, after reading about Stoic principles, he decided to make a change. He stopped texting constantly, stopped rearranging his schedule to fit theirs, and started focusing on his hobbies and personal growth. At first, his partner didn't seem to notice, but as weeks went by, they began reaching out more often, asking about his day, and even expressing concern about his newfound independence. That urge to pursue kicked in because Alex had created space. His absence wasn't about punishing his partner. It was about reclaiming his time and energy. What can you take away from this? The urge to pursue isn't something you can force. It's a natural reaction to the energy shift that happens when you prioritize yourself. It's about creating a life that's so fulfilling and vibrant that others can't help but want to be part of it. If you're wondering how to embody this, start by asking yourself, am I giving more than I'm receiving? Am I sacrificing my time, energy, or self-respect to chase someone who isn't meeting me halfway? If the answer is yes, it's time to step back, not as a tactic, but as a form of self-care. When you stop chasing and start valuing yourself, you become someone worth pursuing. It's as simple as that. And here's the best part. When they do come back, it's not because you begged for their attention. It's because they recognized your value on their own. What do you think? Have you ever experienced the power of stepping back and letting someone come to you? Drop the phrase, "I'm worth it," in the comments if you've seen this dynamic play out in your life. Before we move on to the next insight, don't forget to subscribe and turn on notifications. The next segment dives even deeper into the emotional shifts that happen when you disappear, and trust me, you won't want to miss it. Number 5. The battle between relief and regret. Let's delve into one of the most complex emotional dynamics someone experiences when you remove yourself from their life: the tug-of-war between relief and regret. These two contrasting emotions often arise simultaneously, creating a whirlwind of internal conflict that forces them to confront their feelings about you and the role you played in their life. At first, they may feel a sense of relief. Why? Because when someone grows accustomed to your constant presence, they might start to see it as a given, even taking it for granted. Your absence initially feels like a release of the tension they didn't realize they were holding. It's like stepping out of the sun after spending hours in its glare. There's a temporary relief, but it doesn't take long for the cold to set in. The relief, however, is often fleeting. Once the immediate effects of your absence settle, regret begins to surface. They start to replay your interactions, recalling moments where they might have dismissed you, taken your kindness for granted, or even caused you pain. This regret isn't just about missing you, it's about realizing they may have been the reason you left. This inner struggle is heightened by their inability to resolve their emotions immediately. On one hand, they convince themselves that letting you go was for the best, even justifying their actions to avoid confronting their mistakes. On the other hand, they feel the void left by your absence growing louder with each passing day. Regret is a powerful force because it demands accountability. It forces them to look inward and ask the tough questions. Why did they leave? What could I have done differently? Why didn't I value them when I had the chance? This self-reflection can be uncomfortable, but it's also necessary. It's in this space of discomfort that growth often begins, both for them and for you. Here's where Stoic principles play a vital role. When you step back, you're allowing the other person to experience these emotions without interference. Stoicism teaches us to control what we can, our actions, our reactions, and let go of what we can't, such as how others perceive or respond to us. By embracing this philosophy, you create an environment where their relief and regret can coexist and ultimately guide them toward greater clarity. This battle isn't limited to romantic relationships. It plays out in friendships, family dynamics, and even professional settings. For example, consider a colleague who undervalued your contributions. When you left for a better opportunity, they might have felt relief at first, thinking they no longer had to compete with you. But as they struggled to fill the void you left, regret inevitably crept in, making them realize just how much your presence mattered. In romantic contexts, this dynamic is even more pronounced. Imagine someone who took your love and devotion for granted. Initially, they might feel liberated by your departure, relishing the freedom from emotional accountability. But over time, as they face moments where your absence is undeniable, a quiet dinner, an empty text thread, the regret begins to outweigh the relief. What's remarkable about this process is that it isn't something you can force. It's a natural consequence of creating space and focusing on your own growth. By stepping back, you allow the other person to sit with their emotions, unfiltered and unmediated, and in doing so, you demonstrate your own strength, independence, and resilience. So, how can you apply this in your life? If you're in a situation where someone has undervalued you, resist the urge to fill the silence or chase their approval. Instead, trust in the process. Trust that your absence will speak louder than words and that their battle between relief and regret is theirs to navigate, not yours to fix. Before we wrap up this section, I want to hear from you. Have you ever noticed someone battling between relief and regret after you distanced yourself? Share your thoughts or experiences in the comments below with the phrase, "I choose growth." And don't forget to subscribe and hit that notification bell so you don't miss the next part of this series. The upcoming segment will dive into the profound emotional impact of silence. Trust me, it's one you'll want to stick around for. Number 6. The crushing weight of silence. Silence. It's often misunderstood as passive or insignificant, but in reality, silence is one of the most powerful tools in human relationships. When you disappear and choose to say nothing, the weight of that silence can be far more impactful than any words you might have spoken. Let's explore how and why silence can have such a profound effect. At first, silence can feel like an empty void to the person left behind. It's unsettling, a space where their thoughts and insecurities echo louder than they'd like. They might initially try to fill that silence, reaching out with messages or gestures to gauge your reaction. But when there's no response, they're left with only their own mind, spinning scenarios and questions that they can't answer. Silence is powerful because it forces introspection. Unlike arguments or emotional outbursts, silence doesn't give them anything to push back against. Instead, it mirrors their own behavior and choices. If they've wronged you, ignored you, or taken you for granted, your silence becomes a constant reminder of that reality. It's not just your absence they're dealing with. It's their inability to escape their own conscience. This is particularly impactful in romantic relationships. Imagine someone who has grown used to you always being there, texting, calling, or simply showing up. When that consistent presence suddenly vanishes, it disrupts their sense of security. They may not have realized how much they relied on you until your silence creates a vacuum in their life. But here's the twist. Silence isn't just about absence. It's about the unspoken message it carries. Silence says, "I'm not going to beg for your attention. I'm not going to fight for a place in your life. If you want me, you'll have to show me." This quiet confidence is rooted in self-respect, and it's incredibly attractive. It shifts the dynamic, putting the focus back on them to make an effort. In platonic relationships, silence can serve as a boundary. If a friend has been dismissive or disrespectful, stepping back and allowing silence to fill the space between you can send a clear message. It says, "I won't tolerate being treated this way, and I'm not going to waste my energy on someone who doesn't value me." It's not about punishment, it's about self-preservation. The crushing weight of silence also lies in its unpredictability. Words can be analyzed, argued against, or dismissed. Silence, on the other hand, leaves nothing for them to hold on to. It forces them to sit with the unknown, to wonder what you're thinking or feeling. That uncertainty can be far more unsettling than any confrontation. Let's take a moment to connect this concept to Stoic philosophy. Stoicism teaches us the importance of controlling what we can, our thoughts, actions, and reactions, while letting go of what we cannot control, like the opinions or actions of others. Silence is the ultimate expression of this principle. By choosing not to engage, you're exercising control over yourself while refusing to be drawn into their narrative. Now, let's ground this idea in a relatable scenario. Picture a couple going through a rough patch. One partner has been consistently dismissive, making the other feel unheard and undervalued. Instead of arguing or pleading for attention, the undervalued partner decides to step back. They stop initiating conversations and choose silence instead. At first, the dismissive partner might feel relieved, thinking they've avoided conflict. But as days go by, they start to notice the absence. They wonder why the usual messages aren't coming through, why the silence feels so loud. That silence forces them to reflect on their behavior, and often it leads to a newfound appreciation for what they've lost. Silence is not about being cold or manipulative. It's about creating space. Space for the other person to realize your value. Space for you to reclaim your peace and focus on your own growth. It's a reset button, a way to shift the dynamic without saying a single word. So how can you wield the power of silence effectively? First, resist the urge to fill the void with explanations or justifications. Let the silence do the work. Second, use this time to focus on yourself. Channel your energy into personal growth, whether that's pursuing a hobby, reconnecting with friends, or simply enjoying your own company. Finally, trust the process. Silence isn't about immediate results. It's about allowing time and space for clarity to emerge. Before we move on, I want to encourage you to think about how you've used silence in your relationships. Have you ever seen its impact firsthand? Share your story in the comments below with the phrase, "Silence is strength." And don't forget to subscribe and turn on notifications so you're the first to know when the next video drops. The upcoming segment will dive into the fear that often drives people back. Trust me, it's a topic you won't want to miss. Number 7, the fear that brings them. Crawling back. Fear is a powerful motivator, especially when it stems from the realization that something or someone truly valuable might be slipping away. When you disappear, this fear often becomes the catalyst that compels others to return, sometimes with greater determination than ever before. Let's unpack the psychology behind this reaction and explore why it's so impactful. At its core, the fear of loss is a deeply human experience. People often don't appreciate what they have until it's gone, or at least until they feel its absence. Your absence creates a space they can't ignore, one that forces them to confront what life is like without your presence, energy, and influence. And for many, that realization can be unsettling, even frightening. When it comes to relationships, whether romantic, platonic, or professional, people tend to take consistency for granted. If you've always been there, offering support, kindness, or attention, they may have subconsciously assumed you always would be. Your decision to step away disrupts this assumption. Suddenly, they're left with questions they can't answer. Why did they leave? What does this mean? Can I get them back? This fear can manifest in a variety of ways. For some, it's the fear of rejection, the idea that they've been deemed unworthy of your time or energy. For others, it's the fear of the unknown. Without you, their life feels less stable, less predictable. And for many, it's the fear of regret, the sinking feeling that they've lost something truly irreplaceable because they didn't value it enough when they had it. Consider a romantic relationship where one partner consistently takes the other for granted. When the undervalued partner decides to step back, removing their presence, attention, and emotional investment, it often triggers a dramatic shift. The partner left behind starts to notice the absence in ways they hadn't anticipated. They might miss the small, thoughtful gestures, the laughter you shared, or even the sense of security your presence provided. This absence becomes a mirror, forcing them to reflect on their own behavior and choices. In this reflection, fear begins to creep in. What if they've lost you for good? What if someone else steps in to fill the void they created? These thoughts can be both sobering and motivating, driving them to take action to reconnect with you. This dynamic isn't limited to romantic relationships. In friendships or professional settings, your absence can prompt similar fears. A friend who always relied on your support might realize how much they've taken you for granted. A colleague who dismissed your contributions might come to see how essential your work was to the team. In every case, the fear of losing something or someone valuable becomes a powerful motivator for change. So, what does this mean for you? First, it's important to recognize that this fear isn't about manipulation or games. It's about creating space for others to recognize your value on their own terms. By stepping away, you're giving them the opportunity to miss you, to appreciate what you brought to the table, and to take responsibility for their role in the relationship. Second, it's crucial to use this time to focus on yourself. The fear that drives people back is rooted in the realization that you're strong, independent, and thriving without them. This isn't about making someone chase you. It's about showing that your life is full and meaningful, with or without their presence. Finally, it's worth noting that not everyone will respond to this fear in the same way. Some might take action to repair the relationship, while others may retreat further into their own insecurities. Either way, your goal shouldn't be to control their reaction, but to remain true to yourself and your boundaries. The fear that brings them crawling back isn't just about them, it's about you. It's about reclaiming your power, valuing your worth, and refusing to settle for anything less than what you deserve. And when you do, you create a dynamic where respect, appreciation, and effort become the foundation of any future interaction. This is the essence of Stoic relationships, focusing on what you can control, yourself, and letting go of what you can't. By stepping back, you're not just disappearing. You're setting a standard for how you deserve to be treated, and that standard is what ultimately drives others to recognize your value and work to earn their place in your life. Thank you for joining me today. Remember, your value shines brightest when you stay true to yourself and set the standard for how you deserve to be treated. If you found this video helpful, please like and subscribe for more insights on building stronger relationships and self-worth. And don't forget to share your thoughts in the comments. I'd love to hear your perspective. Until next time, take care and keep thriving.